and jump into our intermediate fly, which is our lightning bug for this month. First thing we're going to do is tie in our tail material, which is Brahma hen. You'll see I've already started my thread back from the bead down to our tie-in point. And then I measure the tail here to be about half the length of the hook shank coming off the bead. So I don't look for a long tail on this fly. I want it to be pretty short and stubby. And as far as number of fibers to go here, I used about somewhere around a dozen different fibers there for the tail. I'll wrap my thread forward to secure all that down, then trim the excess off. Next, I'm just going to bring my thread right behind the bead. We're going to tie in our wire. I'm doing the red version here of the lightning bug, so I've got some red wire. I just tuck that underneath the bead. That kind of helps hold that wire steady, and then we can tie that into position. I like to tie that right against the side of the hook shank, back to the tail, and then I'm actually going to wrap down into the bend just a little bit more, just to give that fly that nice curved look that we get with the scud hooks. And then once we have that tied in, we're ready to tie in our flash. So with our flash, I've taken 3 strands of red Flashabou. I'm just going to trim these ends here so they're even. That just makes it easier to tie in. And then I put these Flashabou strands pretty close together, makes them easier to tie in, and then there's no spacing with them, because we want a nice tight body here with this flash. So I tie that in at the back of the hook, anchor that down with several good wraps, and then advance your thread forward to behind the bead, and then we're going to start to wrap this Flashabou up the hook shank. I'm just going to wrap that over the top and away from us, so we're wrapping it clockwise. And as we do, I just want to have touching wraps, one in front of the other. If you have a little bit of a gap there seeing the thread, it's not a big deal, because we'll cover that up with the wire. Main thing is that you're getting a good portion of that thread covered and building a nice flashy body with that material. You can go ahead and tie that off, and then we'll trim that, and then I'm going to build kind of my thorax area here with my thread, where I'm going to have my dubbing and thin skin and other materials there. So I'll wrap back just a little bit, and then we can go ahead and bring our wire forward. Like I said, just nice even spirals here with the wire. We're just bringing that up along through that Flashabou, and you'll kind of notice as you wrap it, it almost falls into place into those grooves, if there's any made as you wrap that Flashabou. Once we bring that wire up to our thorax area, we'll go ahead and tie that down, trim it off, and then we're ready to start building our thorax now. If you have a little nub of wire here like I did here, we can go ahead and just fold that back and then wrap your thread over it. That just helps secure that wire even more. And then the first thing that we're going to tie in on this fly for the thorax is going to be 1 strand of Flashabou. So I just take 1 strand here, and I'll go ahead and just anchor that to the top of the fly. And just like a copper john, we'll end up stretching this over top of our thin skin. So I've cut a strand of thin skin here. It's the width of the bead is how I measure that. And obviously the length, you just want enough to be able to hold and pull over the thorax. So we'll go ahead and tie that in with the curve of the thin skin. It's going to be facing up after you've torn that paper back off. So then we can go ahead and tie that down and anchor that in. And then next we're ready for our dubbing. So we're just going to build a nice little spiky dubbing body with this SLF Whitlock squirrel dub. And I like a thicker body. Obviously you don't want it too thick, but we want to make it buggy and have that fox squirrel kind of stand out and move with the fly. So we'll add that there, fill in our thorax. If you have too much like I did there, you can just kind of pull that off. Pulls off pretty easy. Okay, and then next we're ready for our legs. So for our legs, we're just going to be using Brahma hen. And I've already prepared a feather with the Brahma hen. You'll see I cut the tip out of the feather. And what I do there is I hold what's remaining there. You want to make sure you have even proportions of the feather. So I've cut the tip and folded some of those back fibers back towards the stem. And then you just put that right against the fly there, the length that you want on the legs. And then you can go ahead and start to tie that in. There's lots of different ways to tie these legs in. Just want to show you just another way to do it if this is easier for you. If not, There's lots of different ways you can do it. I like this way. It just keeps them all proportionate and even on each side. Then we can go in and go ahead and trim those legs out just as close to the bead as you can. And any little nubs sticking up will cover up with thread as we build up a little thread collar here. So I'm ready to stretch my thin skin up and over, just right on top with the thorax, just center it, and then tie that down with a few good tight wraps to anchor that. And then when I'm ready to trim it, I just stretch that thin skin and cut it close to the bead. And then again, I do the same thing with the red flashabou. Stretch it right through the middle of that thin skin and then anchor that down with the thread. And then same thing when I cut that, I stretch it tight and then go ahead and trim it off. That's pretty much it. At this point, we're ready to whip finish. The fly's done. Really good, effective attractor pattern. I love fishing it in the winter. It's also really good in the springtime during runoff. So tie a bunch and let us know how you do with it.